Hi, this is Nat with the Other Side Nursery. Today let's talk about propagating Rhipsalis. Specifically today, Rhipsalis paradoxa. This is one of my favorite species over here. I've had this one for, I don't actually know how many years, just because I have several, but either way, it doesn't matter. It grows pretty fast. It might grow about a foot per year, maybe a little bit longer if you feed it a little bit more. I personally don't really feed my Rhipsalis that often. I don't really know how fast they can grow if fed pretty regularly. But yeah, so what you would need would be pots. Don't go with anything too big, especially for cuttings, just because it'll hold too much water. It'll be a little bit harder to control all that. So 2 to 3 inch pots would be fine. This one over here is about 2.5 inches. It is a little bit deeper than I usually would like, but this is all I have right now. You would need some sort of cutting tool. It can be a blade, it can be pruners, it can be scissors. As long as it's sharp, and it'll just kind of slice right through. Alcohol just to sanitize things. Soil. So you can go with succulent soil, but in my case I'm going with standard potting soil and mixing some pumice in it. I'm gonna do about half or so. And then of course Rhipsalis. Yeah. Let me just quickly move this over here. Yeah, so Rhipsalis. First, what you want to do is clean your tool, just so you're not passing any kind of pathogen over to other plants. So what you want, let me move closer to you guys. So let's say it's this long. I would personally, for my specific reason, I would cut it maybe about 2-inch chunks or so, or at least have 2 segments in it. It's a lot easier when there are little roots coming out already, like these over here are little roots. In the wild, they kind of grab onto trees. They're epiphytic succulents, so they grow on trees, sometimes on logs, and yeah, occasionally they'll grow on land, but they'll just kind of grab on trees generally. So these roots usually do that, but sometimes you won't find roots like that, like this strand over here, but that's fine. You can still cut 2-inch segments out of them and use it. Sometimes you can even do longer segments, but like I said, for my case, I'm just gonna do smaller segments so they can grow into the plant. But if you just want long insert gratuity kind of thing, then you can definitely just kind of cut wherever you want and stick into the soil. But yeah, here's this. So let me go back to my position. So yeah, find where you want to cut, and then just snip. What is important though is you remembering which direction is which. I place my cuttings on a piece of paper and I draw an arrow on it indicating which way the soil is. See, the arrow's over here. It just kind of indicates where the soil was, because you want to stick, sorry. So this is the new growth, and then as you go up it gets older and older. So technically this is where the soil would have been if it continued down. So you want to continue down like this. You would stick the side that's closest to the soil line into the pot. But before that, you want to callus this over a little bit. So the thicker Rhipsalis, you want to let it callus for a day or two before you stick it into the soil. I can't find the camera. There you go. You want to let it callus over, let this tip over here callus over before you do it, or else you'll just end up exposing it to different pathogens and stuff in the soil. So luckily, I've already calloused the ones that I want to use over, and we'll go with those ones. So this one I'm just gonna put off to the side. Back in my position. So yeah, let me mix some of the soil. What do you do? Something, just mix it. Nothing too fancy or specific. All right. So this is the consistency that I prefer seeing for Rhipsalises. Let me show you this again. Ooh. All right, so putting it in the pot. And so, if you are lucky enough to see the spots or have the spots with the little roots in it, just kind of stick it in. Let me see if I can, yeah. Let me grab two. All right, so this is where, there we go. This is where the soil line would have been, or the direction that faces the soil, I should say. So what I would do with the first one, this one doesn't have any kind of aerial roots anywhere. So I'm just gonna stick it in maybe about an inch or so, right in. But this one over here has a little bit of aerial roots over here. I'm not sure if you guys see it or not. There we go. So it has one over here, and it also has one up here. So there we go. There we go. Yeah, so it has some up there. What I would do is, in this case, this one over here is a little bit too short. It would be a little bit too close to the soil, or I should say, like if I stuck it in like this, it's a little bit too short for my liking. So I'm just gonna plunge it down a little bit further down so it can hit the second one. It is a little bit deep, but it's not that deep. So I would let the soil, or I'm sorry, the roots over here hover above the soil a little bit, and that'll be it for this one. Let me do a second one. All right. There we go. So once again, locate the, I'm not sure why I'm not gonna use this one because the side is kind of turning black, so I don't know what's going on with that. So putting that down. There you go, with this one. So once again, I see aerial roots over here. This side faces the soil, so I'm just gonna plunge it down and then leave it above where the roots are coming out over there. With this one, it's a nice little Y-shaped one. I'm gonna plunge this down all the way to where the joint is, because roots tend to come out of those joints also. Yes, there are roots up here, but I don't want to go that far down. So you can just lay this on the side. There are different species of Rhipsalis that you don't want to plunge all the way down like that. Especially the more fine hair looking ones. You can plunge it down if the wood is thick enough, but if you just have little frilly Rhipsalis, like stem kind of thing, you can just let it hover above the soil. So another example of just how to root it would just be laying it down like that. See how there are lots of roots over here with this one? You can just kind of lay it down like that. The difference between the growth like this and the growth like the one that I just did is this one, well, let's start with this one. The growth will continue coming upward. And that's the look I want to go for, just upward kind of thing. While this one, it will produce kind of an upward thing, but it's more going to grow sideways and then immediately just kind of droop down. I want a little bit more height to it first and then coming down, versus this one that will go down right away. So you can do it like that, but in my case, or for what I want it growing up a little bit more. And this one doesn't have any roots, so I'm just gonna stick it like an inch, quarter inch down. By quarter inch, I mean half an inch down. So yeah, as long as it's stable. So after these, I'm just gonna spray it down a little bit. I don't want the whole thing to be wet. I'll just spray down the soil a little bit, just to kind of keep it moist, just to kind of stimulate the root growth a little bit. It's a lot easier to do this during springtime, especially if you're going to be doing it outside after the last frost. Actually, I would wait until it's at least 60 degrees before doing this outside, but I'll be doing this, or I'll be growing these inside in my new little rack over there, that bright thing. Back to position. This bright thing over here is a new rack that I just brought in. I'm gonna be using it to do a lot of stuff, especially do a lot of cuttings. I'll be growing some stuff that are not really for sale over here, not yet at least. I mean, I'll be doing cuttings and stuff like that. So if you see this, don't worry, whatever plants are on here will eventually be available for sale, but I just want to have something off to the side. So yeah, after a few weeks or so, you can lightly tug on the plant. If you feel like it's coming up really fast, that means it hasn't rooted yet. But if it feels like there's some sort of resistance there, that means it's rooted, and then you can water it as normal or as scheduled. Your cutting will shrivel up a little bit though. That's because there's going to be water loss, but then afterwards it'll plump up, and when it starts plumping up, that's also a good sign that the roots have established. One thing I did forget to talk about though is preparing your plant for the cuttings. You want to make sure that you water it pretty well. Don't overwater it, just, you know, as long as it's plump and healthy and everything, the cutting will be more successful. As for using stuff like rooting hormones, you don't really have to. Those rooting hormones are good for like stick stuff. I mean, yes, these are sticks, but they're cut more of like a fleshy tissue, leaf, stick, I don't know how to explain it, kind of plant. But I'm talking about stuff like citrus cutting, you know, like softwood, hardwood kind of cutting. It helps with that, but you can use it for this just to prevent fungal growth, and some of them will prevent other like viral stuff. But yeah, you don't really need it. You're not going to be more or less successful. Well, I guess if you're preventing diseases, you'll be more successful with rooting hormones. So yeah, that would be it for cutting Rhipsalis. Specifically, these ones are Rhipsalis paradoxa. If you have any questions, please feel free to call or email me at info@theothersidenursery.com. Thank you.